Hey, welcome back. It's Food News and Chews Radio. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you hear the joy in my voice, it's because
I can't even talk.
We're in a room full of pies from Missy's Pies.
I'm eating this peanut butter thing, and it is like heaven.
Black bottom banana.
No,
Chelsea
I'll fight you
from
over it.
Missy's Pies is in the studio with us, and when I say Missy's Pies, what do you think, Jeremy? You're the food guy.
You're the
Well,
guy.
I mean, I'm a chef, but I also grew up around here, and Ramsey's and Rob Ramsey and Missy's Pie. I don't exactly know how all this started. There was Missy's Pies and there was Ramsey's. I think Rob was like, I want Missy's Pies at my Ramsey's, and then probably something happened there.
So Missy was actually a prep cook for Rob, which is the same position I started in as a cook. And she started making pies, and he decided he would, continue to have more pies made and do a separate business venture with her.
What a smart man.
Yeah.
And then about a little while into it, she left a note on his desk and said, Rob, I've changed my mind. I'm going to go marry the love of my life up in Connecticut or somewhere like that. And just left the pie shop to him. So that was all she wrote.
The mother of what is invention is the mother of necessity is the mother of invention.
I would love if someone left me a pie shop.
I know.
I fall in love.
And the rest is history.
If your wife has to leave you, that's what you want her to leave you with. Here's a pie shop.
Here's a pie shop.
Ending to a fairy tale, really.
Let's make certain points. Yeah, she wasn't his wife.
But I mean,
she
in
was a
general,
prep cook.
But in general,
they can leave
yeah,
with
life or whatever.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a fairy tale.
yeah. I love that. And
So-
how long has it been?
Oh gosh, at least 30 years.
When did you take over?
I took over about a month and a half ago. I've managed and cooked for Rob since about 2012. So,
Wow.
yeah.
And what's your history is as a general?
Well, my history has been line cook, prep cook, and manager, general manager, and now running the pie shop. So this is a new
Which is
adventure for me.
big.
Yeah, it's huge because baking is completely different from cooking.
So did you start out at, say, Sullivan, or did you kind of work your ranks up through different kitchens? How did it all come together?
So I actually went to UK with a double major in history and economics, and just started cooking because it worked with my school schedule, and it helped me get through school. And it turns out that I was pretty decent at it, and I actually really enjoyed doing it. I liked feeding people. It's a fundamental necessity. And I just kind of, walked away from a history degree and said, you know what, I'm going to run restaurants.
I love that.
I love that. That's exactly what I did. I was at UK for a year, kind of trying to find my place, and got a job cooking. And that next semester, I was in culinary school. Like, this is for me. It just kind of chooses you, right?
Exactly.
So when we talk about baking, I've learned a lot of cool stuff in culinary school and whatever. But whenever it comes down to what I want to eat, it's two things: there's ice cream and there's pie.
Oh yeah.
And I usually like them together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it seems like we're in Lexington, Kentucky. This is a pie town, and this is kind of a pie time of year. So I want to start.
First off, I like that we're known as a pie town.
Pie town.
And a pie town.
Pie
of the
town,
year.
yeah.
Can we all agree that pie is the superior dessert to cake? Can we all just, as adults, just be like, because I get a birthday pie from Missy's every year. And almost everyone in my family does, because I prefer pie over cake.
So you're going to have my vote behind that. Now, I love me some cake, guys. I'm not a hater, but just my personal preference. I'm a good old Southern boy from Kentucky. I want me some pie and some ice cream, and you guys do it well. So this is pie time of year. What are the most popular pies in Lexington, Kentucky? Because we've got a big spray of them right here. I want to know which one's the most ordered.
Well, for us, most definitely the black bottom banana.
Yes!
You won.
It's like hearing your sports team win. Like, that's my pie.
I would have never guessed that.
And a
I
close
wouldn't either.
second would be our key lime pie.
Oh,
We do a really good key lime pie. I don't like citrus desserts, but I will eat a key lime pie from Missy's all day long.
Okay, and you sell a lot of those, like at Thanksgiving, even though it's more of a. Maybe that reminds everybody.
We sell
of
it
the
year
topics.
round. It
I
never
was
stops.
gonna throw peanut butter in there. Do you guys sell a lot of peanut butter?
We do
pie?
sell a lot of peanut butter too,
Love
but
it.
the ones that I get the phone calls for the most are the black bottom banana and the key lime.
Really, I would
Yeah.
have thought it was more traditional. How about the fruit pies?
So the fruit pies definitely pick up this time of year. I mean, it's Thanksgiving.
That's
You're
ice
going to have
cream.
apple pies. You're going to have cherry pies. That's what's in pumpkin pie. I mean, that's synonymous with Thanksgiving. And then, of course, around the 4th of July, you get a lot of fruit pies coming out too, because what's more American than apple pie?
Yeah, right.
That is right.
What is the weirdest thing you've ever put in a pie?
Oh, I still can't get over strawberry rhubarb.
Really?
Rhubarb
Oh.
is just so
it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't make sense.
But
my son loves that.
Yeah.
Actually,
that's the craziest thing to me, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Tell me about
I think there's like the same kind of people like Sour Patch Kids that like strawberry
and
rhubarb pie.
up north, that's a popular pie because they grow a lot of rhubarb up north, where he was in Minnesota.
And I think it's fine if you sugar anything enough and I'll eat it.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I mean, but
Yeah.
over
I know.
that, it's kind of fibrous. I feel like I'm kind of a horse.
Yeah,
It's like
true.
eating celery, sour celery in a pie.
That's right. Who wants sour celery pie?
But it is like the things kids like, the
Sour Patch.
Sour Patch Kids.
Yep.
You actually kind of grows on you.
Yeah,
so
I'm for them.
maybe you do. So you're about to enter your busiest season, right?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Thanksgiving. Because people are pie people on Thanksgiving.
Yes. We've taken orders for some businesses that have ordered 60 pies, 100 pies, just to give to their customers. We've
You were saying off air that pumpkin used to be your favorite.
Yes, pumpkin once upon a time was my favorite. And then we actually, to keep up with the orders and the demands, we do overnight baking shifts. And once you've baked about 300 pumpkin pies in one night, you don't want to look at a pumpkin pie ever again.
Amazing.
I kind of remember one of my first jobs was working at Long John Silver's, and I never eat Long John Silver's anymore. Within a month, you get sick of smelling like fish, tasting like fish. Is there anything like working in the food industry that you just won't eat anymore because you're just like, I can't?
Well, durian would be number one
Yeah.
because it exists. And beyond that, I don't. No. Sometimes like. You'll have like a little jar of olives, and there won't be enough brine in it. And I don't know, it'll get stuck in my fridge at home or like in the walk-in at the restaurant. And like whenever somebody cracks those open, I can't smell or touch an olive for several months.
Really?
Yeah, and that's a weird one, right? I don't know.
Super weird.
That is
Beyond
weird.
that, I pretty much eat everything.
Then you make a pie out of olives.
Yeah. How many different kinds of pies would you? What's the array of pies that you?
Oh
prepare?
gosh.
25.
We offer consistently 23 different pies.
23 different.
And then we
ones.
have different variations that we offer too.
Yeah.
I know this year we're going to be doing chess pie for Thanksgiving, 5-berry, cherry almond crisp,
Okay.
Dutch apple,
Sort of
caramel
specials.
apple.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So
And
it's-
people actually can call and get a specialized pea.
Absolutely.
Pie pea.
Yeah. So we started taking orders back at the beginning of October, actually, for Thanksgiving pies. And we're compiling our list. We've got our confirmation numbers so that it's easy to pick up the orders. And, we're just getting everything together for it.
By
right
when?
now.
When do
So,
I have to do this?
You need to call in by Monday at 5:30 before Thanksgiving.
Monday, which is what, the
The 21st.
21st.
And if you're ordering a cheesecake, I need that order in by Saturday because it takes 3 days for our cheesecake to set. We do a traditional New York cheesecake.
Oh wow. So
Yeah.
3 days
Yeah.
for it to set.
that's impressive. I mean, especially for a pie shop with high production like you.
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
to spend that much
Yeah.
time on one thing.
How hard is that? I mean, that must, because you don't have do you have an enormous kitchen or?
No, so we actually, Rob converted his old offices into our pie shop for us, into our kitchen.
Is that the place that's on the corner of High
Yeah,
and?
yeah. After they
what is
left
that?
High
and
Street.
what? Yeah.
So we have one decent-sized kitchen that you walk into, and a small room where you can sit and eat your pies, and we even serve sandwiches and stuff like
Oh,
that
you're
during
right
the day
about
too.
that, yeah.
So,
Huh, I
but
didn't know that.
It's
have-
pretty
that was-
small operation.
Last time I was in there, which was Thanksgiving time, I remember seeing that.
Yeah. Well, usually during Thanksgiving, that's where we're pushing the pies out from.
Yeah.
So.
So the biggest part of baking at home, I think, that throws people off on pies is definitely the crust.
Yes.
Could walk us through what
Yeah.
you feel like is a good, fail-safe way to do this? Because I think, you read the ingredients and there's just a few things, but it's really about the process.
It is about the process, and I hate to take away from the art and the mastery of the process.
Yeah.
But if you're not comfortable as a baker in your own kitchen, in my opinion, there is nothing wrong with going to the grocery store and grabbing the Pillsbury dough that is already made.
Yeah.
You
and
heard
putting
it
in a
right
pie
here.
tin.
I agree.
There's nothing wrong with that.
That's
Semi-homemade can make some of the best product that you're going to put out of your kitchen.
Yeah.
I think it's more important to understand the internal ingredients of the pie, and then if you want to get
filling,
better at
yeah.
it, yeah, exactly.
So I I definitely agree with that. For
Oh, yeah.
what $1.50, they'll set you up with a nice pie crust. crust. Concentrate on your pie process, the recipe, the flavor you want to get.
Right.
Taste your filling. Make sure you've locked it in place, and then start tackling the pie dough. Because the dough, I think, is frustrating enough to just put you off from the whole process.
Chef, what's the best ingredient? Is it butter that makes it really good and flavorful?
Well,
whether it's in
yeah.
Pillsbury, it's butter.
Butter
More
is
the better,
better.
huh?
Yeah,
The more the
butter
better.
Yeah, that's really, I think the most important thing is the temperature of the butter, introducing it into the flour. Or, shortening or whatever you want. I think typically 90% of the time at home I'm using just a stick of butter. And I'll usually grate it on a cheese grater.
I put it in the freezer and let it get really cold, and then I use ice cold water with like actual ice cubes in it.
That's the key, isn't it, to not melt it?
Yeah, and you don't want to overprocess it and overhandle it.
You need it, but you don't overdo it.
Yeah.
And so it's easier to buy Pillsbury.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the thing though, is I feel like the Pillsbury doughs are over kneaded.
They are.
They don't have that crumbly texture. So if you can pull off a good homemade pie crust, you're going to win every time. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the frozen, but you do miss that kind of crumbly homemade texture.
Crumbly is a good word, because when you make pie dough, you should almost think you're making a mistake, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Because maybe because I made pie dough and I go,
edge.
this looks like sand. And you're like, well, give it an hour and let it sit, right?
That's exactly what it should look like while you're waiting for it to rest and come back together.
So you've not done this very long. Are you going to like this?
I absolutely love it. It's a challenge for me. Starting as a cook, cooking it's an art. It's beautiful.
Sure it is.
You can throw ingredients in there together and learn, well, maybe not so much cayenne next time. But if you put in too many egg whites in your meringue, then your meringue's not going to set up. Or if the weather is too humid outside, it might not set up. There's so many different factors. It's chemistry when it comes to baking, and it's an art when it comes to cooking. And so I'm going back to school.
You're an artist. Yeah, you're an artist. Yeah,
literally going back to school, or going back to school in the technical sense of learning to bake this stuff.
How many employees do you have just doing Missy's pies?
So right now there's myself and 2 other bakers.
To do all of this?
We'll be pulling other people in from Ramsey's to help us out, especially during peak season. But typically there's just the 3 of us in there baking.
And what kind of ovens are important?
That's a good question. Right. What are you guys using? Double door convection ovens or a big industrial walk-in baking oven?
Oh, just double door convection ovens. Yeah, we can bake. Let's see, 54 pies at one time in the 3 ovens that we have.
Okay, so that's a pretty good run, and I think overall when it comes to the consistency, you've got some conveyor ovens for factory output, like that, say, Kern's Kitchen would use.
Or Frisch's and their pumpkin pies.
Yeah, they're beyond that, you have some kind of walk-in proofing ovens you might see in a culinary store or a big bakery, where literally it's like a walk-in cooler door, and you walk in, the entire room is an oven, and it has motorized trays that'll spin around with all the racks of different doughs. It's almost like a big carousel, but that's way big production. What they're using is a standard, double door convection oven. That's probably the most efficient and going to produce the best results.
How does a convection oven differ from a regular oven?
The fan that blows the air and circulates it.
But that's important.
It can be. It can also be a, not a good thing when you're baking.
Really?
You really got to watch your temperatures. You got about a 25 to 30 degree rise with the convection oven blowing, so you need to lower your oven temp. And then sometimes...
Well, what about a person at home? They should just go to Missy's, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
But, if they're trying to bake at home, just an ordinary person, no less than ordinary. Me, I'm on the ignorant end of the spectrum.
Well, they probably put the convection bake
button
right next to the other bake, the regular bake oven. You need to be using the regular bake oven, I'd say, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
The convection oven, if you're making French fries and chicken tenders and frozen pizza on the fly, I would turn that on. Otherwise, your temperatures are going to be pretty off. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Wow.
Okay, I have a question about pie lore. Okay.
Pie lore.
And I don't know if it's even lore. Pie lore. Yeah.
Lore as a folk tale.
Yes. Because you mentioned Derby pie a few minutes ago, and I've been told that Derby pie is a trademarked phrase, right?
It is.
So can you trademark a recipe? Is that or is it just a method, or is it just the name? Because I've always been curious about, because a lot of people call it May Day pie or First Day in May pie.
Yeah.
So the term Derby pie is actually a trademark brand.
Yes.
And
They
that's
have
what
the
this is,
recipe,
kind
the
of a
trademark.
version.
Yeah. So we
kind of
call it May Day because it's after that famous day in May.
Sure.
Because
I love that.
Kearns
Chocolate
stole
nut
Derby.
pie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but the actual name Derby pie is what's
Do you get a
trademarked.
lot of orders like, what are your holidays? I know Thanksgiving's number one.
Oh yeah.
And then what? How do they
Christmas
rank?
definitely after that. And
Substantially less than Thanksgiving?
Not substantially. It is.
less.
It is a little bit less,
Okay.
but it's still fairly busy
Okay.
for us. And then, of course, around the Run for the Roses, we do sell a lot of Derby pie. That everybody wants a Derby pie at their party. And then, of course, in the summertime, people are doing picnics and stuff like that.
Are your pies always in the shape of pies, or do you do tarts or anything?
Always
different?
pies.
Always
Yeah.
pies, and that's consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah.
What about mini pies? Those are kind of fun.
So when I have, and again, this goes back to understanding my product and still manipulating it. When I have leftover cream pie filling, I do have mini pie tins that I will make mini pies with, and I'll do mini meringue pies and stuff like that. So,
I think we
those are
need
just
a little
out of
mini pie at Azure.
Yeah.
We need a Missy's pie at Azure. 'Cause
All right,
it's-
let me
I
ask you
agree,
this.
and we've
as a pie professional and a
a
pie,
pie
eater,
professional. I love that.
Do we
Doctor
like
of pies.
mini pies? Because it's how I feel about.
Hey, minis are pretty good because they're all concentrated.
Well, okay, so I feel this way about Reese's peanut butter cups. I prefer holiday Reese's because I like
They're
the
tiny?
I like the chocolate to peanut butter ratio better. Okay,
for which
and I think
kind?
with
Yeah.
mini pies, you get a different crust to filling ratio.
You do.
How do we feel? I think about this a lot. So how do we feel? Do we like mini or
I like minis. I do like minis because
Who
they're
doesn't want
concentrated.
their own little pie? I mean,
Yeah,
especially
yeah, it's your own.
yeah. I don't know. I'm with the mini pie.
I'm
So you
with
like
mini.
the more
But it's-
crust to filling on.
But it's little like
you have the
Coke in a
crush
bottle.
ratio.
Coke in a bottle versus, other kinds of Coke.
Right. Yeah.
Coke in a bottle is just special.
the same thing.
And it's like contained.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Coke in
Yeah.
a bottle is
Coke
way
in a
different.
bottle is different.
when you
And
can
I
eat a
think
pie
minis-
in your hand.
Yeah, it's
just
your
pick
own
it
little
up.
baby.
Yeah.
It's no more pie in that mini pan than you get in a regular slice.
Right.
But you
It's-
get crust around
and
the
it's
entire
round.
pie.
It's
And
round.
that's one of my favorite things about the pie is
and-
the actual crust.
And psychologically, it's round. I think that matters.
It's complete. I get a
It's
complete
a circle.
whole thing.
It's
for
like
me.
a hamburger. A hamburger has to be round, or it's not a good hamburger.
So no Wendy's.
No,
No White
you don't
Castle.
square. You don't do square.
I'm with you.
Did you ever think that when you started making pies that people would be able to dissect and get so deep into the world of pie? Did you think the world of pie was this deep?
Actually, I'm not surprised by it at all because when my friends go out for girls' night and stuff like that, we are critiquing everything that comes to our table and we're diving in like we're actual food critics.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
makes perfect sense to me. People are very particular about things that they like, and
Do
I
people,
love.
do
I
people
love it.
react? How do they react when you say you're a pie professional?
Well, I tend to tell
What
them
do
that
you
I'm
say
just a
you
baker.
do? Like at a cocktail party.
Yeah.
What do you say? What do
I'm
you
a
do?
jack of all trades and a master of none. I bake, I cook, I'm
I
good
bet
with
they're
numbers and
fascinated.
people. It's it's a lot of
I
fun.
do pies. Wouldn't that be fun?
Missy's pies.
Yeah.
Like Missy's pies.
Well, it's a name.
Yeah.
There is a lot of pressure to
Yes.
uphold the
I can
quality and maintain what people expect coming out of that building, and I absolutely thrive under that. Like I love that.
It's a calling. You don't make pies because you want it. You make pies because you
It's
have
like
to.
There's
bread.
a lot of little ladies in this region that can make a real good pie. So
Yeah.
if you're going to
Oh, yeah.
sell them, you got to be on board.
Pies are
Exactly.
artisan stuff, and so are breads. You notice that bread people are artisans. Really good kinds of breads.
So we
and
got about 30
pies.
seconds left. Make sure if you want a pie from Missy's for Thanksgiving, order by Monday the 21st. If you want a cheesecake, you got to order by the Saturday before, which I think is the 19th.
Whatever.
So
Yep.
make sure
And
you
where
order.
do they go? Where do they go?
They're going to come down to the pie shop on the corner of Woodland and High Street. We don't deliver to the Ramsey's locations.
Okay,
during
but
the
you
season.
call. There's a number to call.
859-253-0449.
And we'll link it all up on our Facebook page.
Oh,
at
I
Food News
love
and
it.
Choose Radio.
Yeah.
Chelsea,
Okay.
so nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in, and thank you for the pie. Seriously.
All right, thank you.
Back in a moment. Food News and Choose Radio. Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's Food News and Choose Radio. Thank you for joining us today. Chef Jeremy Ashby, Sylvia Lovely, Norma Meatwitch, and today we're talking about pie. And we're going to talk to the folks at Missy's Pie.
Okay.
which is a local. I mean, you talk about pie.
Iconic. I use that a lot, but I only mean it for the really cool places like Missy's.
You know, in the last few weeks, not to toot our own.
I remember when it was new. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt. I remember when it was new. I remember Missy's Pie Shop opened up.
Really? Are you that old? Because it's been around for a while.
I am. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but wasn't the first one over off Southland Drive behind?
It was.
Okay. Then
and they moved it to that location now on Main and...
where Ramsey's restaurant used to be.
Yeah.
Right at Main and Woodland.
Woodland.
Yeah. You know, not to toot our own horns, but if we don't toot them, who's going to? You know, we've had a lot of iconic restaurants on in the last few weeks, you know? You think about like Burger Shakes. We've had the guys from Sawyer's downtown. Iconic.
San Juan. Old San
Juan. You
know?
No
kidding.
If you know of an iconic restaurant and you'd like us to talk to the person or people behind it. I think it's a lot of fun to talk to these people who own these.
And we're getting some of that. We keep that out there because we did ask that one week and we got some. And there's a couple of places that have been mentioned and I've made note of them. But let's talk about pies and history of pies.
Yeah.
Started in ancient Egypt and Greece, and at first, guys, they were meat-based. And still, Chef, aren't there meat-based pies?
Yeah, but, you know, you don't really see that very much outside of Europe. I mean, it's mostly kind of a British and French, Canadian pies? Kind of thing.
Is shepherd's pie? What's shepherd's pie?
Yeah, that would be kind of a meat pie without the crust. I mean, it's more like a, ground meat and mashed potato kind of casserole, I'd say, than a pie or a pie. But those kind of meat stuff pie, like the one that I kind of was most familiar with was a French pork pie, and it's a French Canadian thing, and it basically was ground pork with a lot of onion and I believe sage, and that was it was a very crumbly kind of a leaner filling baked into a pie shell, and it was often served with chili sauce. Strange, like the
chili sauce,
the canned,
but there
chili sauce.
There should be no reason why you couldn't put meat. A quiche is kind of
an egg pie.
Is an egg pie.
So if you go to Europe, and there's not as many as there were, but there still are what's called pie and mash shops. Because the meal is like a beef, chicken, or an eel pie.
Yeah.
And then they come with a side of mashed potatoes, and they're kind of smeared on, and then a side of mushy peas.
Yeah.
And that's
a pot pie is what,
pretty much a precursor to the pot pie, right?
Right. And then I think when you get into Africa and the Caribbean, Jamaica and the islands, you see meat pies as well, but they're popovers, they're turnovers, they're hand pies. They're traveling pies.
True.
So they're more mobile, so to speak.
Well, and that's how, from what I understand, the way the pie became popular was as a way to keep the food inside.
That's right.
Good while the guys were at work.
And here's something else. At first, there was no edible crust. It was reed. The pie held that stuff together.
Really?
And sometimes in the meat pie, it was a chicken, and somehow, I can't even envision this, the drumsticks would be the handles.
I don't know how all that works, but why not?
All right, so let me ask you, when we get into pies, okay, there's a lot of, obviously there's meat pies like you were talking about, there's sweet pies. What about things like empanadas and hand pies?
Oh, that's kind of pies.
Yeah, because there's fried pies, and empanadas are like basically a fried meat pie.
Maybe we're eating pies and we don't even know it.
Yeah,
because
it's
we
like,
don't
what's
think
a sandwich?
About it.
What's a pie?
It's wrapped in something.
Probably going to be more varieties of the hand meat pies than the classic round meat pie.
Let's talk about, in anticipation of our pie expert coming, what about crusts? Because I'm sure their crusts are fantastic, but is there a special ingredient to crust?
No, it's really good quality ingredients. I mean, some people try to substitute, say, margarine, things like that instead of butter or shortening. I think as long as you stick to good quality ingredients, just the base salt, sugar, flour, and butter. Okay. It's really about the process. It's temperatures and
it's like chemistry. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we should talk to the baker about it. But yeah,
you can't go healthy. Like you can't go. I'm going to make a healthy pie crust
unless it's a pot pie or something.
Yeah, it didn't work. You
I wonder if people have had any luck with, say, coconut fats, in a pie crust. I bet they probably have. I bet it would work pretty well.
Why would you use coconut oil? Fats? Because it's better for you?
Yeah, I guess so. I would never do that.
I'll tell you what, it's pretty good. Hey, I will tell you what's pretty good. Now, you guys are going to gag.
What?
Is gluten-free crusts. And I do that with pot pies because the crust doesn't overpower the ingredients.
Okay.
Like if you use a really buttery crust with a quiche or something, So I make all my pie, even though I'm not doing much of the
You just do
gluten-free stuff.
gluten-free.
It just seems like the crust plays second fiddle
Well,
to
so
the ingredients.
what you just described is, as I understand it, the holy grail of pastry chefs. Because the idea when you make a pie crust is to avoid gluten formation. So you get gluten formation
I'm onto something.
by kneading bread. And when you make a pie crust, you actually purposely don't knead it so that you don't form gluten. And that's why a lot of people will put vodka in their pie crust instead of water, because vodka, so water and flour make gluten. Vodka will not form gluten, so a lot of pastry chefs will use vodka as the liquid in their...
I actually did something that was really cool in cooking.
Yeah.
Those Russians and their pies.
Yeah, right.
St.
So you don't
Peter's
want
pie.
gluten. You don't want gluten when you make a pie crust, because that's what makes it tough.
Well, I'm onto something.
It works.
Does it work?
Well, we talked about that for like fry batters as well. It works
The
well.
other thing is fruit pies came in about the 1500s, and pies have really expanded. Like the list generally lists these things: apple, cherry, pumpkin, pecan, chocolate cream, blueberry, key lime, but have branched out now. We have peanut butter, Oreo, ice cream pies, ice cream cakes.
That's one of my favorite kind of. I like turtle pie. It's Baskin Robbins. You know that ice cream pie. That thing's. I dream about that thing.
I know exactly what you're talking about. No, you're exactly right. Ice cream pie, and you can make an ice cream pie super easy. You buy a pre-made pie crust shell, and then you just fill it up with ice cream and let it freeze. Like it's amazing. Put some whipped cream on it. You're done.
Yeah.
What is your favorite pie? What's everyone's favorite pie?
My favorite pie is peanut butter pie.
Okay.
I love the peanut butter pie.
Yeah, see, that one's pretty high up there for me. I like that Kentucky
It's
chocolate
so
silk
sweet.
pie. I like the turtle ice cream pie we just talked about. There's one that's really kind of cool, and it's pretty mainstream now, but when it came out, it kind of blew up Instagram, so to speak, or blew chefs' minds away, and it was from Milk Bar, Momofuku Milk Bar. It's called crack pie. And it's basically kind of like
heard
a
of this.
chef's pie baked on a oatmeal cookie crust.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
And it's not normal, guys. It's pretty awesome.
False news. Somebody said that there was cheesecake at the original Pilgrim's dinner.
Cheesecake.
Cheesecake. Not possible.
I don't think so.
Because cheesecake is not easy
Well, you
to
need
make,
milk
is
to
it?
have cheesecake, and I don't think there are any
they
cows
didn't do
there.
a lot. So at the first one, and you're going to describe this in a minute in a modern day version, which is a pumpkin
Yeah.
filled with a custard type thing.
Custard
filling.
baked in a pumpkin. Yeah.
And they did what they had. They used. Now it says here they used milk. Now they may have brought. Did they bring cows over?
I don't know. I mean, yes, maybe.
Milk, honey, and spices to make a custard-like thing. And we're going to hear more about that. But I checked into that because there's a lot of the thing that preceded the Pilgrims were the Native Americans, and that's making a comeback to use only the ingredients that were available at the time, which means there was no dairy.
No.
And I've read somewhere there were no potatoes.
No, there
No
wouldn't have been.
potatoes, no tomatoes. We weren't really doing much with wheat. It would have been like acorn flour and stuff like that.
So what do you think
Corn flour.
the original Thanksgiving dinner was mainly wild game? And I know you're doing a wild game dinner, right?
Turkey,
Yeah.
Turkey, venison,
seafood.
probably fish, shrimp.
And had onions, carrots, beans, spinach, lettuce, and nuts.
Sounds good.
And the Native Americans, and there's several different periods, including the occupied period when they were nearly starved to death, but it was the magic 8: corn, beans, squash, chilies, tomatoes, potatoes, they say. Maybe the Native Americans had a version of this, vanilla and cacao, which is cocoa, right?
Yeah.
Now there were yams here and sweet
And
potatoes.
that might have been what that was. And then, of course, in the occupied period was fry bread.
So I'm
And
Fry bread,
salmon was a popular thing, too.
I would say that the most, I don't know if you know anything about this, but probably the cuisine most people know the least about is Native American cuisine.
True, and we
could
live
you
in
even,
America.
Yeah, could you even name a dish that Native
Just those fry breads and stuff is all
I'm
I know.
surprised-
Acorn
Some of the
flour.
restaurants refused to serve fry bread because it was what came out to basically, that's what they gave the Native Americans, and they nearly starved. And this was just something that was really bad for them, caused all the bad health problems. But a thing called tepary beans, vanilla, and the Three Sisters corn corn, beans, squash, and wild rice. That's 4, but 3 sisters are corn, beans, and rice, and wild rice, and salmon on cedar. And that's what they serve in places like the Sous Chef, Gatherings Cafe, or Owamni, which is in, you can't get any wheat, flour, cane sugar, or dairy.
Because it wasn't around then.
At that restaurant. And so that's, and they said there was this very small amount of sugar on the Mayflower, so you didn't have any pies, cakes, or breads. You had cranberries, dried grapes, and strawberries, cornmeal pudding.
Cornmeal pudding, yummy.
Oh, really?
Man, it would have been tough to come over on a boat into a new land.
Yeah.
And try to put on a feast. I mean, that's
try to put on,
Iron Chef, Pilgrim edition.
Yeah.
So what's going to be your favorite pie for?
Oh, man. God, pie. I love pie. So just so you know, I love pie. It's my favorite dessert. Chocolate cream, coconut cream pie. I love the cream pies.
Oh, we didn't mention banana cream.
Yeah, banana cream pie. Oh.
Cream pies.
Oh. Yeah, peanut butter chest pie. I don't know. I like them. It just depends on the day, guys. There's just, you know what I mean? You wake up and you're in the mood for a specific kind of pie.
Yeah.
And that day it's the best pie in the world. So, I'm for all things pie.
My favorite thing is and I love Ramsey's. When you go to Ramsey's and you see the pie board and you see that certain ones have been crossed off, it actually makes me happy because I'm like, okay, it's less choices.
It eliminates part of the decision-making process.
Right, because you go to Ramsey's and you see that pie board, and if it's full, it's like, I don't even know why I'm eating dinner. I want 3 pieces of pie.
Yeah.
Well, I guess back to this original pumpkin pie, right? Yeah. I think we talked. You can look up custard baked in a pumpkin. I think it's really neat for a presentation piece. Why not try it out instead of a Thanksgiving pumpkin pie? So you guys see those little pie pumpkins that are in the Kroger's or in the big grocery stores, even the small little individual sized ones. Just stick with those. And I think you get maybe a pie pumpkin for a family of 8, just one. Or if you want to do individuals, just get one per person. And here's how easy this is. You're going to want to poke it with a little stick and just to put a little puncture holes on the outside of the pumpkin. Just bake it whole. Open up the oven and just put the whole pumpkin in there. Don't wash it and all that stuff. Just bake it at 350 until it gets a little bit soft, okay?
A little bit soft.
Yeah, you're going to be able to, kind of squish it with your fingers when it, while it's in the oven. Poke it and it kind of gives a little bit. Take it out. You're going to want to let it cool for a little while because when you cut open the top like you would for a jack-o'-lantern, a lot of steam is going to come out. So give it a second, or maybe go ahead and cut the top off and let the steam come out.
And clean it out.
Then scoop out the seeds, but you want to be careful because now the flesh itself is going to be cooked.
You want that meat on there.
And you want that meat. Yeah. So from the top, you scrape the meat off of that and scrape some of the meat out of the sides. You don't need to do a lot, and you don't want to take away the integrity of the walls of the pumpkin. You want to leave enough intact. Now, also, you could have only baked this pumpkin halfway if you had some pumpkin puree, like on the side.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
From a can or whatever. But this is, all inclusive. So you're going to use the pumpkin puree from the inside of the pumpkin. Overall, I think you're going to get about 1.5 cups to 2 cups of that.
Would the seeds be included in that?
No, you want to discard the seeds
You want to discard the seeds.
And then scrape out a little of the flesh, right?
Bake those and eat the seeds.
And just kind of whisk up the pureed pumpkin flesh. And here's the ratio, guys. It's 8 eggs and 4 yolks to every quart of cream.
8. Okay, that's a good. It's good.
It's an even dozen.
4 yolks.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically you're going to use a whole dozen eggs. Take the whites out of 4 of those.
Correct.
And then that's for a quart of heavy whipping cream.
Right. And you're going to basically.
Mix that together.
Yeah. Well, yes, you're going to mix it with cream and sugar, and then you're going to put it over a double boiler and just slowly cook it until that starts to kind of thicken.
And you use as much sugar as you want to make it as sweet as you want.
Yes, and this is where you get to be a little bit creative and don't have to really follow too many recipes because that custard's going to be pretty it's going to hold for you. That's why I use that ratio in general. So sugar it the way you want to. If you want to whisk it up cold in a bowl and not do it, you can go and just pour it into the pumpkins and put it in the oven and bake them. If you wanted to kind of cook the custard a little bit till it thickens and then put it in there,
it's up
you
to
could do that also.
So you're talking about baking this right in the pumpkin.
Yeah, and then you serve the whole pumpkin.
I like
that.
that.
You want to scoop out some of the sides, some of that custard. I think you're going to want to follow the classic kind of flavorings of vanilla and maybe cinnamon, nutmeg.
Sure.
Ginger would be good.
Ginger, yeah.
Yeah, just
now, say
for
that
if you wanna
ratio.
put
That's a
little-
really fun way to. I think that's a fun presentation
yeah.
for.
Say that
Thanksgiving.
ratio again.
8 eggs and 4 yolks to every quart of cream, and I think you're not going to need more than a quart of cream. That's a lot, okay? And if you kind of refill that into the pumpkin and make sure it's sugared sweet enough and spiced the way you want to, pinch of salt in there too, and you slowly bake it at 350. Then that custard will set and you're good to go. And you serve it in the pumpkin. It's a lot of fun.
I love it. Now, speaking of Thanksgiving and wild game from the first Thanksgiving, you are actually doing a wild game dinner at Azure, right?
Yeah, we
A
think
fall feature.
you're right. Yeah, kind of hunting season. We did this last year and it was a big success. So we're going to do it again this year. So wild game, we're going to introduce red or just wines with it as well. So we think
Hearty.
Yeah, hearty stuff. We got our sommelier coming to talk through it, but we're starting off with smoked then fried frog legs, which is kind of neat. We're going to do a cold smoke on frog legs, then chicken flour them and get them a quick fry, and that's going to be with a spiced apple and
You
cranberry
don't find
sauce.
those everywhere. Are those hard to find?
Not really, just they're not as popular. I mean,
guess-
I think around here they used to be popular, but you
I
just
think
don't
you got to
see
get
them
them
on
from
many
the
menus.
frogs. You got to get them.
Right. So spiced apple cranberry sauce, toasted pineapple relish, and that. We're going to do basically braised rabbit and mustard sauce, the La Panne and Moutarde. This is the classic.
Are those easy to find? I mean,
rabbits?
other than right in front of us and my dog.
In our
and my
neighborhood,
dog.
we can get them. Yeah,
know.
Yeah. We'll be taking the proper route though, and we'll get them from Critchfield's.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're gonna basically braise that in white wine with a Dijon mustard cream sauce with pearl onions, potatoes, carrots. Very classic French dish. We're not straying from that. 'Cause-
When you're cooking a rabbit, is it like a chicken where you can do it all as a whole?
Right.
Or you do it in pieces and parts? Like, do people like rabbit legs?
You can do both. It breaks down very similar to
chicken.
poultry. I mean, even though it's not. Yeah, you take the hind legs off and the front legs off, and you've got a couple loins you take off.
Yeah.
The rest, there's not much left to the rabbit. So
Yeah, they're kinda
hence
skinny.
when you put them a whole in a pot and kind of use all the meat and shred it, that's kind of the way to go with rabbit. Now, this case, we'll be using a leg and thigh quarter of rabbit. That's the kind of hardiest, meatiest
Right.
area, and it'll make a nice dish, a nice presentation.
Is rabbit like for someone like Sylvia who doesn't really eat? You don't eat a lot of wild game, right?
Nope, I'm not a wild game person.
Is rabbit a really good entry point for getting people into wild game
Yeah,
because
that's a
it is
good
so
question.
mild?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a strong gamey flavor at all. It tastes like chicken. I hate to
Somebody
say
made
that, but it
venison
does.
sausage for us once, and it actually was good.
I love venison.
Sure.
Venison
Yeah,
sausage.
and I think that's why you see so much sausage and summer sausage made out of when you spice it and get the
Yeah.
right grind and fat, the gaminess is gone. It's just a great way to eat that protein, eat the meat.
Now, the menu. Can people see the menu and they can get their reservations now for the wild game dinner?
I've still got rack of wild boar coming up, and then we also have a crepe vignette of elk. So that is followed by
That's
a
a
toffee
lot.
brownie poke cake. So you got 5 courses, 5
What
ga-
is that? Is that a...
Well, it's real. We're gonna
Is it related to
make a
game?
chocolate brownie cake and then
Oh, it's
poke it with like a stick, and then fill it up with like toffee whipped cream and more coffee and let it soak in there. So it's got a real fall hunter yummy
All right, all
poke
right.
cake, chocolate caramel sauce on that.
All right.
Okay,
So
so
that's
they should
the
call
menu.
and get a...
You need to call and get it.
Make reservations. You need reservations to go to this, right?
By the way, I'm doing
Yes.
turkey for Thanksgiving.
I think you.
What are you doing?
I believe in you. I believe in you.
You're
see
doing
how it goes.
turkey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nah,
Well,
nah,
you know
nah,
what?
nah,
I
nah.
am too.
All
But mine's
right.
going to be really good.
Hang on. Up next,
Just because I'm going to sous vide it.
you know,
I'll be over.
Be all fancy.
mine's gonna be really good because I'm not gonna make turkey. Up next, we are talking pie with the woman behind Missy's Pie, whose name is not Missy. We'll tell you who she is next. This is Food News and Shoes Radio.